Hello, this is Ruth Guthrie, and this lecture is about performance metrics. You're developing your websites now. You're going to have a completed website that you're going to test in class, and how we're going to measure the user's success is through performance metrics. So let's talk about, in our classroom, we're having kind of a poor man's usability test lab because we don't have the money or the time to set up a actual giant usability test lab, but that's essentially what we're doing. And Microsoft has one of these, and every once in a while you'll see someone walking around with a t-shirt that says usability test subject, Microsoft, or something like that. These are pictures I got online of different usability tests, and if you look in the upper left, this one from Mediamatic, I found this super intriguing because it's a giant drawn picture of a roadway, and you'll see the little stack of papers held by the woman's arm with the purple polka dot shirt, and that's meant to be the GPS, and the man is on the road and he's seeing, can he operate that system? And you'll see a little camera there too, recording what he does on the computer screen. And you know, maybe that's an extreme. Maybe you could have someone sit in a car and you wouldn't have to draw that big drawing, but what lengths to go to get something to turn out semi-real. The picture on the right shows a more typical usability test lab where you've got testers that are behind a screen and the user can't see them, and they're quiet and they're observing what the person is doing when they're testing the software. So that person in the room is watching something and working the computer, and there's probably a camera on his face, and they're capturing the keystrokes to see exactly what he does when he's doing the usability testing. And this one from Gamasutra is a similar thing also. You see the testers in the control center on the left-hand side, and you see two little kids playing on a Xbox or something on the right-hand side where the camera's on their faces and they're recording what they do. Performance measures. There's going to be 5 different types of performance measures that we talk about today. 1, task success or effectiveness. 2, time on task. 3, errors. 4, efficiency. And then one other thing, learnability. Task performance. You want to measure to see how people perform on tests that you give them. And so during class, when we do our testing, you'll develop 5 different tasks for the user to perform. And they need to be developed in a way that you can compare them across all 5 users. So an example of a good thing to measure that's precise so that you could compare people head to head is maybe in Excel, and you tell someone, find the average of the numbers 59, 1200, 36, and 5 using an Excel function. And every single person who does that task, though they might do it differently, they will come up with the same result unless they have an error. But that is a head-to-head measure where you can compare all 5 subjects on the same exact thing. Another example might be find directions to the closest Target store. And presumably they would be, maybe they're testing a cell phone and they're asking Siri, where is the closest Target store? Or take me to Target or something, and getting the directions from the GPS in a phone. But everybody should end up with the same result. So a less precise and not as great a task to have users perform would be those that are more open-ended. For example, if you gave a user a browser and you said, learn how to add fractions, they would probably search for many, many different sites all over the internet. There's lots of publisher sites, there's Khan Academy, there's YouTube to show you how to add fractions and find the least common denominator and things like that. Or suppose you had some older users and you said, all right, sit here and tell me how you'd plan for your retirement. Even if they're using one piece of software, they might have very different ideas about how they would develop a plan for retirement or where they'd put their money and things like that. So there's no way you could measure them, no way you could compare them to each other. It wouldn't make any sense. So when you're defining your tasks, make sure they're measurable and make sure it's something you could observe in a lab or in our classroom, as it were. This is an example of a binary success table. And for our small sites, it probably is ridiculous, and we're not going to keep a table like this because of that, because our table would probably be all ones. This is a table of pass, fail. It's go, no go, right? And so in your table, you'd have users, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'd have the tasks across the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But you would say what the tasks were, because it's much more meaningful to someone reading the table than to just see generic titles. So task 1 might be find the average of these 4 numbers. Task 2 might be show how to copy a cell into another spreadsheet or something like that. And then you tally up the results and you get an average that gives you an indication of binary success. When you're testing, you need to also think about failure and stopping rules. So there's different types of failure. If you're running a test, somebody might find it frustrating, or they might not understand what an average is, and they might just give up and say, I can't find it, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm done. And you can't keep watching them because it's over. So you have to have some idea of when you're willing to call it the test of failure and that the person couldn't complete it. So that means you as the moderator of the test would end it. You might also call a failure if the user takes too long. And we had someone testing. The guy was, I don't know, 45 years old, and he went to their website, and they used a laptop to show the site. And the person looked at the site, and the task told them, go do this. And the person just stared at the site, and they never moved because they didn't know that you could scroll down, and there was stuff below what was originally shown on the screen. And the students who were running this test said, oh, I can't believe that guy didn't scroll. And it's like, well, your design didn't show him anything that would indicate there was information below or that he was supposed to scroll. There was no visual cue, no way for him to understand that. And if he's the demographic for your site, then you just learned a huge lesson. It wasn't that he was dumb, it was that your design was poor. And then you might have the user get the wrong result, like averaging those numbers. What if they just get the wrong result and they take the sum or the mode instead of the average? You know, then you have to mark that the person didn't get the result correct. And you have to think about what the stopping rules are. If they give up, you'll stop the test. After so many tries, maybe they try 5 times and they're getting frustrated, you'll say, okay, thank you, well, you're done with that part of the test now. Or you might just say, if they take longer than 2 minutes, the test is over, they're done, and just to record that in your data. Demographics. It's really important because all the users you're testing will come to your test with different life experience, different knowledge of technology, though in our class probably we all are pretty much the same. We had the same courses and things like that, but all your sites are different, so we'll see. But you need to know ahead of time who they are, because if you have 4 novices and an advanced user and it takes people a very long time to complete a task, maybe it's because they're novices. You know, you need to know the context of the test. So I suggest you do a pre-test questionnaire and ask the person to self-rate things like their frequency of use of technology, how much knowledge they have about the subject that your site is on, and maybe their previous experience with a product that might be on your site. And their age, I think, is a good indicator of maybe their expectation and what kinds of technology they use. You get to design that for yourself. But I would encourage you to try to ask them self-rating in an explicit way so that they don't have to be real vague about what their expertise is. And a lot of times users will overestimate or underestimate what their expertise is. And by giving it a more explicit quantification, people are more accurate in how they assess themselves. So you can say, are you an Excel user? And then have the choices be once a week, 3 times a week, several times a day, instead of beginner, intermediate, advanced, because those words can mean different things to different people. All right. Non-binary success, levels of success, right? Because you might help someone, or somebody might finish something partially. They might book a plane, but they fail to book a hotel. So you might think about different levels of success. And even if they fail the complete task, you can say, well, they got through this part. So there's complete success, there's partial success, and then there's failure. Example of tasks would be store a file in a specific folder, and they know how to store a file, but they cannot find that folder. Take a picture with your cell phone and make it black and white. They might be able to take that picture and find the filters, but they cannot make it black and white. They can't find the specific filter. Give someone a permission number for a class. Pop popcorn in the microwave. They might be able to get the popcorn into the microwave, but they cannot figure out how many minutes, or there's no popcorn button, so they can't just press one button and they don't know exactly what they're supposed to do with the popcorn. All right, let's move now to our second performance measure, time on task. This is, to me, a much more interesting measure. How long does it take them to complete something? The time set to complete the task that you give them during the test. And it's a little awkward because you have to time them during that. Sometimes it's better with two people because one person can be the timer recorder and one person can be the moderator. I'll think about that. Maybe we'll do that for during our test day so that it isn't so chaotic. Keep in mind, faster isn't always better. If you want to develop a site that really makes someone want to look at things and absorb the content, then you'd want a slower time. You wouldn't want them to be done in 5 seconds. You might want them to be done in 20 seconds. Examples of that are learning. If someone's learning something, probably you don't want them to just click next, 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 and be done. Fast is better for things like customer service calls, finding things, like if you need to find directions to a restaurant or you need to find the price of a t-shirt on the blog site. Finding things needs to be done faster. Faster is better. And then productivity type measures, like logging help desk tickets, right? When you call the help desk, they log a ticket and they record how long it takes for them to resolve your issue and things like that. Or maybe how long it takes a person to check out. Performance measures. All right, there's several automated tools for time on task, and I don't know, maybe we should think about using one. Moray from TechSmith. TechSmith is the same company that does Camtasia. Usability Testing Environment, UTE. Usability Test Data Logger from UserFocus. And that's super convenient because then you have a recorded history of what the person did online, and you can go back and see it. Make sure you're clear about when to start and stop the measures. Because if you are too casual with the person who comes to take the test, you'll say, these are the 5 tasks, this is the first task, so, whenever you're ready, get started. And they might be asking you questions, they might be starting, you don't know. You need to have kind of a predetermined way to indicate that they'll start the test. And it might be, I'm going to hand you a card with the task, and that's when we're starting the test. So please do that and get to work. And then when you're done, say, I'm done, so we know that the test is complete. And that way you know when to start the timer and when to stop the timer, and the comparison between all the users will be accurate. Talk-Aloud Protocol. This is my favorite thing. What you do during the test is you have the person talk about what they're thinking and doing, so that if they're frustrated or if they're trying to find something or they don't understand the language of something, they are saying it out loud so that you can hear what they're thinking. And it might take a little practice for people to get used to it. By the end of our test day, I think people will be very used to it. So if I was looking for accessibility settings on my phone, I'd pick up my phone. Why didn't I bring it in here with me? I don't have it with me. But I'd pick up my phone and I'd say, oh, it must be under settings. Where's the settings? Right there. Okay, there's general, there's this. If I scroll down, where's accessibility? Oh, it's up there. And you can see I'm having trouble because there's too many things there to navigate through. I click on accessibility. How do I turn the settings on? What does it mean, and you have the person talk about what they're doing. And, maybe it'll be super easy for them. Maybe it'll be difficult. Or maybe they'll read the menu item and they'll say, I wonder what that means. And then you know that it's ambiguous, and you can change the design of your site based upon the observation of their thinking through their talking aloud. Errors. You can also measure errors as a means of measuring performance. How many errors does the user make? So then you have to define what is an error. An error could be significant loss to efficiency. That means lost data. Have you ever lost a paper you'd been writing? I'm sure you have, because we all have done that, and it's awful. Dropped phone call that has to be redone, right? If you're on a phone call helping someone and then the phone call gets lost, then it has to be redone. That's a loss to efficiency. Significant cost to the organization, like an employee bringing the network down and a ton of labor being required to bring the network back up. Or something like Blackboard's down and everybody's calling the help desk and emailing the help desk. That's a lot of labor involved in answering all those calls. And then anything resulting in a task failure. And task failure could be significant. It could result in a loss of life, like if the wrong medication is given, or, you know, when you have an operation, they mark, if you're having something removed, they'll mark the side that the operation's going on. My daughter had a bunion and she had foot surgery, and they marked her foot to make sure that they don't make a mistake. And people do make mistakes. Purchasing the wrong size, right, is a task failure, which isn't a catastrophic thing like loss of life, but still it's a cost to the organization. Or not being able to buy tickets if you can't read the CAPTCHA. I'm sure you've had that problem. Types of errors. Entering incorrect data in a form, right? If somebody enters the wrong airport, they could get tickets to the wrong place. And I've heard it said that every form field is the source of an error. And that makes good sense. And that's why we try to design our forms so that the user has no free will to enter different things. We try to limit their chances of making an error by filling in the fields for them. Making a wrong choice on the screen, like selecting the average instead of the sum, and maybe performing incorrect sequence of actions. So you are sending a gift to someone for their birthday, and you select the wrong address, and then you end up with an error because of that. And then a missed action. Maybe you forgot to send a note with the gift, or you forget to complete the transaction. You're all the way through, and you didn't see in the lower right-hand side that there was a submit button to close the deal, and then you thought you'd purchased something and you had not. Why do errors occur? Errors occur for a lot of different reasons, but design can help prevent errors. So, example of some different errors, not silencing your phone. Why does that error occur? Because people forget or people don't know, but isn't there some way you could put something on your phone that would help humans so that they weren't so dumb? Like hook it to your calendar so it would know when you were in a meeting, or maybe you want your phone to ring during the meeting so you can leave. Taking a video in portrait mode instead of landscape. People do that all the time, and with the phone, it should know it's a video. Are you sure you want to do it in this portrait view? Having your thumb over the camera when you're taking a picture. A great one for cars is that you'd pull, if it's not your car and you don't know which side the gas tank is on, then you might pull up to the wrong tank. And there's actually a visual cue on many cars, but not all of them, that shows a little gas tank on your meter, and it shows a little handle which is indicating which side the gas tank is on that car, so you don't have to stick your head out the window and try to see if you've pulled in the correct way. Forgetting to fasten your seatbelt, of course that problem's been solved, right? Because if you don't fasten the seatbelt, ding, 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 and it keeps you from having that error and perhaps having loss of life. Great. Performance measures. Back to efficiency. Efficiency. How efficient is something? So sometimes this can be time on task. If you're going for something really fast, you want to see how quickly a user can perform that operation. Or another way to look at that is how many steps does it take? Do they use the quickest point from A to B the most efficient way of getting there, or do they navigate all over the site and use many, many more steps? And in doing this, you have a cognitive effort and a physical effort. The cognitive effort is the part of the brain. Selecting a menu item and selecting the correct action to take are all cognitive skills that you're getting from the user interface. Physical effort would be the effort involved with the input device. So entering data is a physical effort. If you're asked to find spelling errors, that would be a physical effort. Or if you're asked to flip a switch or turn a dial, anything concrete like that is a physical effort. So this picture is meant to show someone's path trying to find something. Perhaps they were asked to find a multimedia file for something, and they go to this record screen, and then they say, okay, I'm going to go to the information hub, and they navigate down. They don't see what they want, so they go to the FAQ, then they go back up to the main page, then they go down to get a record, down to the product catalog, and eventually to the multimedia page where they find what they're looking for. But that is not the most efficient path through the website. The most efficient path is 1, 2, 3 clicks, and you're there. So you could measure things like mouse clicks, page views, or the shortest path to getting the desired result. I don't know why I put this in there. I'm just kind of in love with this idea. There's a measure developed by Smith in 1996 that's called lostness, and it means you navigated somewhere down in the site and you can't figure out where you are, and you're backtracking to try to figure out where you went or where you came from. And there are people that say anytime you use the back button, that's a design failure. So you don't really have to know anything about this, but think about that backtracking. If the user has to use the back button on your site, maybe they're missing something because something went wrong and they had to go back. All right, learnability. Learnability, if you ask people what does that mean, and people say this all the time about websites, it's an easy, intuitive interface. It's obvious. There's no thinking, minimal clicks, and you don't have to rely on memory. Clean and intuitive. People love that. But really, to test learnability, you'd have to measure the amount of effort to become proficient with the use of the software. And maybe not just solving one task, but proficient with lots of tasks. You need to measure this over time, right? Because if somebody uses it once during a test, how do you know if it's learnable if they never used it again? So maybe you'd measure them on Monday of one week, and on Monday of the next week, and on Monday of the third week, and you'd see if their performance got better or faster every single time they used the software. And so in a lab setting, you aren't going to ask someone to come back every week. So what you might do is do several trials with breaks and see if they really got that the interface was easy to operate. Tips. Have your script ready to go at the beginning so that you can read it to them, and you have the same script you give to everyone, and you're organized and the user knows what to expect. Know what computer or phone you're going to use when you perform your test so that you aren't bringing your website up on a strange computer and then realizing that the display is wrong or certain things don't load. That happens all the time, and someone's like, wait, it's not loading, or the style sheet doesn't work, and they're trying to do things to make it work in the right browser and things like that. You want to know that ahead of time. Have people assigned to be the test director, record time and success, record talk-aloud commentary, and record errors. And actually, this class is the first time where everyone's testing their own website. So we won't have lots of people running a test. It'll be you and maybe one other person running a test on your site. Good to take notes afterwards and debrief afterwards so that it's fresh in your head, and when you write the test report, it'll just be very, very easy to do. And if you have time after class, I would write the test report immediately after class and just be done with it. Don't make too simplistic a task. If you make a task that says find the contact information or find the about page, that's really too simple. That's a non-task. I wouldn't even run that. You are not the user, and the user isn't stupid. Try to remember that. What to include in your test script. There's an example here from Stephen Krug, and he wrote a book, Don't Make Me Think, and if you go to this website, and the PowerPoints will be in Blackboard if you want to go to it, it'll show you his script when he's doing usability testing. But typically in your script, you'll say, hello, my name's Ruth, and thank you for being here today because we're trying to figure out how to improve the design of our website. And your responses are really going to help us out a lot. You'll sit here. First, I'm going to ask you some demographic information, and then I'm going to give you some tasks to complete on the site. And, tell them there's no right or wrong answer, and then explain that they need to talk aloud while they're operating the site. Since we're testing each other, this isn't going to be too hard. All right, your test should include introductions, demographic data collection, reading the script to tell the person about the test, have a plan for giving them the tasks so you know that they're all measured the same way, have the subject use Talk-Aloud Protocol, record the time that it takes to do the task, and you can just record that in one giant table. Ask the subject if they have any other critiques or comments on the site, because it's always good to get some feedback, and then thank them for their time and shake their hand. All right, in reporting to the results of the testing you do, I want you to do a really good job and do a good-looking job. Make it look like a nice professional report. Don't just turn in a bunch of data sheets. And then summarize the results and decide how they might inform your design. Tell me, I'm going to change my design to include this, or I'm going to change it to not use this language because the person didn't understand what that was. It could be you run your test and it's perfectly clear and you have nothing to change, but report that to me then. Your report should include a description of the test and the user demographics, tasks, and significant tasks, not easy ones, your script that you use to guide them through the test, results of timing for each subject in a simple table, anything interesting that you said that the user said during Talk-Aloud Protocol. So you'll record their remarks, and if there was anything that you thought kind of captured that your site was great or that the parts that weren't great, record those and put them in your report, and then any other critiques that the users gave while they were testing your site. All right, that's it. So for now, keep working on your website. It should be a minimum of 10 pages. And if you're doing one-page design, that's fine, but it should have plenty of content so the user actually has something to do on that site. When we test, all the content should be complete, the text and the images. Everything should be done except the video. And it all needs to be original text, and it needs to be all original photos, unless you've come and spoken to me and we've talked about what you're going to do to show your use of Photoshop and things like that. Make sure to list your site on Google Drive, the Google Drive page that has everybody's site on it, and listing it there makes sure that I can see it so that if you host it somewhere else, I'll know that address and things like that. Great. Good luck developing your site. See you soon.